Just lift it up. Hi everyone, it's Michelle here. Welcome back to Grounded Haven Homestead. Today we are finally cutting into our massive wax gourd, wintermelon, whatever you want to call it. This is one that we grew in 2021 and it was harvested I think in October, right before our first frost of the year. And it's just been sitting in our basement for a few months and it still looks pretty good. I've been holding off on cutting into it because I like to save these for like the middle of the winter when we don't have fresh vegetables to eat, because now is the time when we could really use something fresh from the garden. And these do pretty well in like medium long-term storage. And also honestly, I was waiting until we had some freezer space because we obviously can't eat this whole thing in one sitting or even in a week. So I am probably going to be freezing a lot of this. It freezes really nicely to use in soups. And like I said, this does store pretty well in medium to long-term storage, but I think we did have to pick it a little bit early just because our first frost was coming. And I noticed that there are a few spots on here that look like they might be starting to get soft. They actually feel kind of okay. But we'll see once we open it, and better to open it sooner rather than later so that any of these spots don't get any worse and get like moldy in there. We also have a couple of blemishes. These I think were from when this was growing, just because it was so big that other things were poking into it because there just wasn't a lot of space for this massive thing to grow on our arch trellis. So we've got a few of those, but even if some of those spots are like a little bit rotten around it, we can cut those parts out and this is still going to be an incredible amount of food. So let's go ahead and cut this open and see what it looks like inside. I know that this is not really a vegetable that's eaten a lot in America, so this might be new for a lot of people as to what it looks like inside. So I'm excited to show you guys and to share it. Wow. Okay, here is what the inside looks like. It is enormous. I can't believe we grew such a huge vegetable. This thing weighed 25 pounds when it was harvested, so just absolutely massive. Alright, so let me just move this half away for now, because there's just not enough space on this cutting board. I think I'm gonna cut this into a few like rings and then deal with each of those. I'm really happy with how this looks. It definitely still looks fresh, smells really good. It has a really nice light smell to it, like a little bit vegetal, but it's not like a sweet melon. You can use it for some sweet applications, but usually we have this in soup. You can see here are some of these spots that were kind of getting soft, but we're gonna have to cut off the rind here anyway, so I don't actually think it will affect much of the part that we eat, which is good. Actually, some people like to leave the skin on. If you boil it long enough, it will get softer, and it does have a lot of the nutrition of the melon in there. So I've cut off the skin, and all of that is going to go in the compost. And now I'm gonna take the seeds out. You can see it's kind of like a melon, where the inside, this part's a little bit more pithy. So you can see where the pithiness kind of starts, and we're gonna scrape that out. But this part, instead of putting it in the compost, I'm actually gonna feed it to our chickens. They really enjoy eating the seeds and like picking at this part. So it's nice to be able to give them a little bit of a treat, especially these days, because we've had a few snowstorms and there's just been a lot of snow on the ground and the chickens are not very happy about that. Being outside is like not super fun for them at this time of year. So it's nice to be able to give them some nice little treats that we grew ourselves. It's also really nice to not be able to waste so much of this. I love having chickens for that reason, because everything we grow, even if we don't eat it ourselves, it never goes to waste. So all of this part is what we can eat. And that's already like a huge chunk right there, that little bit. By the way, this is the variety that I grew. These seeds are from Baker Creek. So it's called a wax melon on their site. I've sometimes called this a winter melon. I don't really know if that's the right term for it. I think maybe the other ones that I grew that are kind of like white and fuzzy on the outside are called winter melon, and this one is not. My parents are always trying to explain to me the difference, but I just don't really remember. So I kind of call them all winter melons because you store them and eat them all during the winter. So to me, that makes it a winter melon. And I kind of use them all the same way anyway. So we've already eaten a couple of those like smaller, fuzzy 4 to 5 pound round melons. And those are really nice because it's not like a huge endeavor to have to crack it open and cut it all up into little pieces like I have to do with this one. And we're able to eat one of those in about a week or two. This one, like I said, I'm gonna have to freeze a lot of this because there's just no way we can eat all this. And I'm also going to be sharing some of this with our neighbors, which will be fun because I'm pretty sure they've never had this before, but they're always game to try new vegetables because we always grow new and different things that they haven't seen before, so it'll be fun to be able to share that with them. And if we had family members that lived around here, then I would definitely be giving like a huge chunk of this melon to each person. It's a really good thing to be able to grow and just share with other people. I'm just gonna go ahead and prep the entire thing this way. Cutting it into these like 1-inch cubes because that's pretty much how we'll eat them in soups. And as far as soup goes with these, it can be so simple. Honestly, our favorite kind of soup is like the simplest one where we just take a homemade stock, like chicken stock, turkey stock, or pork, and it's literally just homemade broth, and then we'll stick this in and boil it for like 10 minutes until it's soft, and it's as easy as that. And that makes a really nice hearty soup, especially on these cold winter days, and it's a really nice thing to serve alongside any kind of like rice dishes we might have. And when I go to freeze these, I can freeze them just like this too. I don't like parboil them or anything. I'll just stick a whole bunch of these into a container or a Ziploc bag and just stick it in the freezer just like that. And then when I go to cook it, I can stick it directly into that broth to make the soup, and there's no need to like defrost it or anything. And it's just super easy. As far as flavor goes, winter melon has a very mild flavor. The texture gets really like soft when you cook and boil it, which is why it's so nice for soups. And sometimes it can be almost like a little bit spongy too, like in a good way though, because it soaks up all the flavors of the soup that you put it in, which is why I always like to put it in like a really nice, high quality homemade broth, because when the whole thing is only 2 ingredients, like obviously you want the broth that you're putting this in to be really good, and it's as easy as that. You can also use this in stir fries. I would probably cut it into like matchsticks if I was doing it that way. I also sometimes put this into curries, which I might do with some of that this week. I'll put it in like a Thai red curry. But really, since it's such a light flavor, you can put it in whatever you want, like come up with whatever you want to put it in. Those are just the ways that I typically cook this. Another thing I made recently is like a winter melon tea. And to do that, you just boil a few pounds of these chunks in some brown sugar until you make like a really concentrated infused simple syrup. And then you can just use that to add to some hot water and you have a nice sweet winter melon tea. And a lot of times you'll find this as an iced drink in the summer with tapioca pearls or boba, or I like to have grass jelly in those kinds of drinks. So that's another way you can use it. So I've already filled up this whole bowl with wintermelon chunks, and that was only like a quarter of the melon. I still have this whole half and then this quarter, so I've got a lot more chopping to do. Yeah, let's just get to it. So I did come across one rotten area, so I'll just cut that out. It's kind of inevitable to have like 1 or 2 spots, even though these like are meant to last throughout the winter. It could have been because I picked this too early, or it just had like some kind of blemish on the outside that allowed disease or something to get through. But it's not really a big deal. I can just cut that part out and the rest of it is fine. By the way, if you're looking to grow these, I think they do require like a pretty long, warm season. At least that's what we have. I mean, this thing's so big that it just needs a little bit of time to not only grow, but to kind of cure on the vine so that I can develop like that harder skin on the outside. And that's how it can store. But if you wanted and you had a shorter season, I guess you could always just like grow it and not have it be preserved in your pantry, but eat it right away, and then maybe you'd be able to grow it that way.
Wintermelon is really high in vitamin C, so it's great to boost your immunity. It's also really high in vitamin B2, which is good for improving vision. Some people also say that it's really good for weight loss because it has a lot of fiber and not a lot of calories. It also contains essential minerals such as zinc, iron, potassium, and phosphorus, so overall it's just a really nice, healthy addition to your diet.
It was a lot to chop. My wrist got really tired, so I tapped in Aaron and he's going to hopefully do the rest of the wintermelon for me. What do you think, Aaron? You think you can finish it off?
You got it.
Here's everything we ended up with. It is an insane amount of food. So we have about 7 of these like takeout containers. We have 6 of these quart containers, and then 1 of these, and then we ran out of containers, so we still have this bowl as well. These are scraps for the chickens that we're going to bring out to them, and then a whole bowl of the skins for the compost. And then I also already have some on the stove with some broth to make some soup for lunch. That was really fun to crack this wax melon open and to see how it looked inside. It looked amazing and preserved well for us all the way into January. And we just have a lot of wintermelon to eat now. In total, this is, I would say this is like maybe 50 cups of wintermelon, which is crazy. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna probably bring 2 of these containers to our neighbors just because, I mean, we have so much to share, so might as well. This bowl I'll probably save for eating this week along with the soup that I'm already cooking on the stove. And then the rest of this is going to be in the freezer. And if we go through 1 of these containers a week, we're going to be set all through the winter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.